welcome. It's the wrong screen.
Try that again.
I'm sorry. It's not funny. Hello, and welcome to the Family Gaming Experience. We're experiencing something very fun, apparently. Lots of all of the things. But welcome. We are very excited to be live and on the interwebs, which is wonderful. I think I'm getting some feedback, slightly.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on. Okay, anyway, we will continue as Weston figures this out. But we are very excited to have the conversation topic of cosplays and conventions. If you've been in the nerdy space for any length of period, you have heard about cosplaying, you know what it is, you've gone to conventions, you've seen the incredible costumes and the incredible cosplays that are out there. So we're going to talk about it. And how do you get into cosplay without completely
destroying your bank account?
Yes. Either that or, not showing all of the décolletage. Not everybody has to worry about that. But we are going to be discussing these things.
I worry about that often.
I worry about that for you too. Like, we've had discussions.
It's a problem.
It's an issue.
What can I say? I want to show.
My gosh. Anyway, but that is our topic of conversation for tonight. I don't believe we have any announcements. So go ahead and run the intro.
And here we go.
And it goes flying by.
There we are.
I love that thing so
Pulls
much.
the screen with a hook.
It's so cute.
So, Jerome, you want to take us off?
Yeah. Well, no, I was actually I'm about 13 seconds behind because I'm watching the stream too. So I didn't want to just start talking and then the transition will work out awkward. It is what it is. That's how we roll. Welcome tonight. For those of you who watch Lost Tribes Gaming, you might know Brittney. She plays in most of our games there. However, what some of you may not know is she's also a cosplayer. That's actually how she and I met. So why don't you give us a little bit of detail on how you got started down that crazy scheme of cosplay and why?
And why?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if there's a concise way. Okay, I'll just tell you a little bit about myself, first of all. I was drawing and writing since 6th grade, and I was really into X-Men. That's how I started drawing, and the 90s.
The 90s X-Men.
Cartoon,
Oh, the cool
and
one.
then comic books and yada yada yada. And then after that, I was into anime for a while through college-ish, and kind of went back and forth. I ended up going to school for illustration and comics.
Oh, cool.
And then separately, but so during that time, you can imagine I was in the geek space quite a bit. And my first fan convention was Anime Expo, probably late high school or early college. And I fell in with a group of friends who were super into cons. And in fact, they called themselves con artists.
Oh, I
There we
love
go.
it.
AKA they did Artist Alley. And I did that a little bit, but I was never very successful, even after going to school for illustration and then going back to school for comics. I don't know. I'm not good. Yeah, I'm not good at the pitch, and I don't know. But being in that space and being with those friends, they were very into cosplay, and I was like, I can do that. My mom sews. I've grown up wearing costumes. My first costume actually was Rogue in 6th grade. And
I loved Rogue. She was my favorite.
my favorite. So all I remember about that costume is I wore my mom's yellow dish gloves. And
That is awesome.
And my dad's like brown canvas jacket. And we got one of those like Halloween hair dye things that like put a white streak in my hair that didn't come out for a week.
Oh,
and,
no.
And my teacher, my homeroom teacher, started calling me an old lady because it faded into gray. Anyway, so that was my first cosplay, and then I've just kind of progressively improved, and it became kind of skilled and started building, just getting better and doing better costumes. So.
Well, and it's hard. Your first one is always just kind of all right, let's try this.
Yeah, you're not really sure what to expect.
I mean, unless you're like, I've sewn for years and I, know how to do all this stuff. I mean, okay, maybe then, but I know for me, it was kind of like, all right.
We had to learn everything.
Let's try this.
Yeah.
I actually have kind of a funny story about that. So the first costume that I ever like legit made myself, rather than like seeing pieces of clothing from thrift store or whatever.
Yeah.
It was from the show Naruto, the Anbu, the Special Forces Ninjas.
Black Ops. Yes.
My friends and I were making costumes to go to a con dressed as a team of Anbu, and I remember, I bought I could get everything else pieced except for the vest, and I was like, okay, fairly simple. I kind of understand how it would work, and I remember this was back in college. I sat on the couch and I had like a needle and thread and like this fabric, and I called my mom and I was like, just tell me that I can do this without a sewing machine. Tell me that it's possible to do this. And she was like, Brittney, what do you think they did before sewing machines?
Wait, there was a time before sewing machines?
Right?
Well, I have had that exact same thought when you look at those dresses from like the 1600s. Like they had rudimentary style like helpers, but like I don't know how they did that stitching. Are you kidding me?
Oh, somebody who was able to tailors and modistes were really valued for their needlework, so it was like a huge whole industry back in the day. So
yeah, no, good points, and actually kind of dovetails into another question I was going to bring up. So I know there's dozens of different ways to really cosplay. You of course made a lot of your stuff, and you still do make a lot of your things. But so, that's only because I know you, I guess. So the question I would pose, because you are that crafty, do you prefer to make it, or are you kind of like most of the other cosplayers where it's kind of like in between? It seems like a lot of the cosplayers, especially even the high-end ones, they have this, I don't want to say a thing, but it's like they'll make a little bit and then they'll also purchase, or they'll like put in commissions for certain pieces and whatnot. So would you I guess if you're starting off, let's put it this way, if you're starting off, what would you recommend?
I think honestly, it depends on your skill level. Obviously, if you're just starting out, you've never sewn anything or you've never built anything before, your skills are pretty small. But also, if you're just getting started, a lot of people don't have a lot of money to sink into the hobby. So upcycling is probably your best friend then. I would say work smarter, not harder. So
Yeah.
Go to a thrift store or find some other kind of like jumping off garment that you could doctor up into what you're looking to do. I'd say that's probably the best way to get started.
That's kind of what we did.
Yeah. 'Cause
Well,
thrift stores.
we actually had to rent yours.
Did we? What did we rent?
Oh, renting is also an option. I keep forgetting that that's a thing, but like theaters will have like costumes. There are like Halloween stores that will have costumes that you can rent. So that's definitely a thing.
Well, here in Utah, there's actually there was, unfortunately, it is now out of business, which is sad. But it was called the Mask Shop, and it specialized in like theater makeup and costumes and rentals and stuff like that. Like they had an entire upper floor of. It was massive. I'm not a good judge of distance at all. My husband can attest to that. So I'm not really sure how big it was, but it was big enough that you could like get lost in the rows of costumes that they had, and they had like a whole digital system and whatnot. So when Weston cosplayed as Lord Voldemort, we rented his cape thing, like cloak thing, which was fun.
Where are you guys based?
We're in Utah. We're in Salt Lake City.
You're in Salt Lake. Because I went to BYU for my undergrad.
Aww, so did Weston. I went to the U.
Well, that's okay.
I know, but in all fairness, Weston got his degree in economics, and I got my degree in opera. So like, it's not like we were huge sports. Like, woo-hoo.
Yeah, I mean, I was an art major. I was not into sports either.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Oh shoot!
Oh no, we lost her.
Did we lose Brittney? Oh, there
she's
you
back.
are. There you are.
I'm still here.
You froze for a second.
I feel fine.
You're good. You just froze for a second.
Now I'm seeing it on the screen.
Okay.
Pose to get frozen at. I was saying in Provo on Center Street, there was a shop called Tailor Made.
It's still there.
Oh, good.
It's so good. I love Tailor Made. Love
they
that
have
place.
They have a lot of like costume makeup and just Halloween stuff and costumes that you can rent and or buy.
Mm-hmm.
So
that was a really cool place.
See, like for me, when I got started, for those of you who don't know, I actually met Brittney a couple of years back. It's been like almost 4 years now.
Yeah, I think it was more than 3 because I just got a Facebook memory of our vampire game. So.
Oh yeah.
Oh, don't you love it when Facebook reminds you how old you are?
It helps in
like
some cases. But so how I got into it is my thing was I knew kind of what I wanted to do. I have like no skill whatsoever for that sort of thing. But artistically, I'm kind of like an interior decorator.
Mm-hmm.
They're not like actual artists that like create something, but they can take existing things and probably cobble them together and make it work. Layout, design, and whatnot. So that's kind of where my artistic thing comes from. So I equate all that, graphics design, HTML, all that. Like I know enough to cobble things together. So the cosplay was no different. And so I had a bunch of overtime at one, coming up, and I was like, okay, so I've got enough money to get into one thing.
One expensive hobby, and that is it.
What exactly? One expensive hobby. And
did you realize this hobby would continue costing money
forever?
When you started?
I lucked out, and my upgrades to the costume that I had at the time were not super expensive.
Oh, good.
So I ended up. So I put a bunch of money down. The biggest thing, obviously, was the lightsaber for my custom Sith. That was like $200 some odd alone.
I love Taylor's reaction to that.
You spent $200 on a non-working sword?
I mean,
non-working.
It's a lightsaber, honey.
On with it if you really wanted to.
Yeah, no, it's a legit stunt saber. Yes, it does work.
No, I'm not saying that it doesn't work. I'm just saying, like, it works for the purpose of which it was created, but it's not like it can cut things.
No, I mean, this is true. I mean, if I really wanted to bash somebody, I really could. So, I mean...
Is this where I tell her I have 3?
Yeah, I know.
That isn't great. Here, see, but I want $400 pair of leather boots. So, and they're cosplay boots. So, like, I get it. We just...
Okay.
We have different things we would spend hundreds of dollars on.
But yeah, upgrade wise, I lucked out. I think I ended up somebody helped me make a belt, so that really I paid for like the leather. I ended up getting an extra pouch, and I already had usable slacks that would work with it. So I think all in all, like it wasn't all that expensive to upgrade, past what I needed from there. But yeah, no, I totally get you. Like when you start getting into cosplay, it's if you can't make anything or have skills to repurpose things, because that's an actual thing too, like you were talking about with Goodwill.
Upcycling stuff.
There are some people that can hit up Goodwill, or cheap sales on like eBay or yard sales, and next thing you know, they've got this rockin' kit. And you're like, where'd you get all that? You're like, oh, I just put some Mod Podge and buffed it up, and
I hate it when that's the answer, because then you just feel like an idiot. You're like, well,
yeah, and you're just like, and you're like, this is just a little bit of Warbler, and and I'm ready to go. And it's like, ugh.
And Warbler is expensive. I didn't realize how expensive Warbler was when I started on my cosplay journey, which I'm technically still kind of a baby, but I've always wanted to get into cosplay. Like Heroes of Cosplay, I watched that TV show, if you guys remember that show from a hot second ago on the Sci-Fi Channel, which I'm so sad that they never did more of that show. I actually saw one of the cosplayers from it. I can think of her physical characteristics, but I feel very weird describing her body. So I'm not
Yaya?
It was not Yaya. Anyway, but I asked her about it at a convention, and she was like, they have not said a single thing. And this was a couple of years ago. So I was like, oh, it's so sad. Because I love watching the process. It's so cool to see the whole process. But like, we upcycled for most of our cosplay stuff that we started with. But like when I looked into Warbler, when I started hearing on all the blogs and stuff, like we just use Warbler for stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, well that must be pretty cool. And then I look it up, and it's like, at that time, it was like $75 for like a small roll of it. And I was like, these people have huge sheets of this stuff. How are they doing this? But then
some people get away with plastic, no, not plastic, but like ABS and PLA, like, and you can get big sheets of that for not much at all, and it's pretty easy to work with for the most part.
I haven't worked with Warbler specifically, partly because it is so expensive. Although I understand it's a little bit better in the last.
It's cheaper now than it was,
but yeah, there are a number of different materials that you can use these days, and it's possible that they use Warbler more for like small detail pieces that need to be like sculpted, kind of a thing. Otherwise, if you're building something that's gonna take up a lot of space, you don't want to use the expensive stuff to make it.
No. Well, and Warbler I feel like would be heavy too.
So
we can't talk about cosplay really, I think, without actually talking about specific outfits and such. So I've been working over here.
Weston's been over here not facing the camera this whole time. I'm like looking at him like, what are you doing?
So
and he's like, just a second.
Yeah, I'm gonna change screens real quick. Hopefully we shouldn't have any technical difficulties, so we can actually look at some of Brittney's cosplay.
Ooh.
He's like, I'm working over here.
Yes, I have been.
Oh, babe, you did a good job.
I had to throw together a quick overlay situation here to rearrange things so we could look. But I'm like, you can't, from my experience talking with cosplayers, a lot of times I get the best nuggets when we actually talk about specific costumes.
Yeah.
So
good point.
I love your Carmen Sandiego so much.
Thank you. I love that one.
Yeah, let me go. Let's let me
That one's a good classic.
break it there.
Although now when I wear that, everyone's like, "You need to walk around with a Waldo."
Yeah, I was actually thinking
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, because
You're
other
like,
people have done it now at cons too, because it's it's one of the in jokes from online. So yeah, no, it
Yeah.
makes sense.
Well, and I think it's also a really easy couples one too.
Sure.
And there's not as many easy couples cosplays.
I don't know, I remember the old Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, the game show.
The geography game show.
Yeah, the geography game show. And I remember watching that.
It's a TV show now, like a mystery. They still deal with geography, but it's like a mystery thing. For
Is that the
kids.
cartoon that came out like in the 90s?
No.
Or is this like a newer one?
So
There was, I think
There's a newer one, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's on Netflix, maybe. Anyway, cool. Okay, go back to the cosplay that I wanted to ask you about. How you made, or if you made it or just purchased it, is the one of the armor.
The Mando?
Yeah. Because you're
Yeah,
Mando in
Brittney
that
gets to
picture,
show-
right?
Yeah, Brittney gets to show off her skills here.
Yeah. Okay. So, because that was actually why specifically I chose that image
No,
of you
that's not
when on the posters for the promo stuff for the show,
Not,
because
not that one, the blue one.
the blue one.
yeah, that's Boba Fett right there.
Yeah, that's
that's
Boba
her
Fett.
in another costume.
That's obviously not me.
You're like, that's
Because
not cool.
she'd be standing next to her.
I'm not seeing
Do you,
it.
hold on. Keep
I'm
going down.
beside her.
Oh, this
Right there.
one?
That one. Yes. That one. Okay. So I was so impressed with this. That's why I chose that picture, because I was like, what in the what? With the armor and the headpiece and the sword things. So please break down for us what I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Jerome, you're supposed to be hosting and then I like freaking take over.
No,
I
you're fine. It's
apologize.
just no. I was giggling because the way you did it, it sounded kind of like a Cosby thing. It's like she's over here with the swords and the armor and all the cosplay things. No.
The funny thing is, the funny thing about that is that like Jerome knows all these stories, and so he's like, "Oh, the Mando."
You're like, okay, let's go on.
Haley's
Okay,
like, tell me about the Mando.
Yep.
so tell
Okay,
us, how did you make this?
So if I'm going to talk about the Mando, then first I need to talk about Star Wars.
Yes.
Specifically, okay, so we were talking about lightsabers earlier. I too have lightsabers, and my Star Wars story. Oh, I'll just say, Jerome
And
and
where
I.
did this one come from?
This costume is from Knights of the Old Republic, the video
Okay.
game. So there is a Star Wars costume groups.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them here in Utah, including we got a droid building.
Yeah.
So there are a number of Star Wars costume groups, and that's where I originally met Jerome from. And before I joined the clubs, I saw a Kickstarter. Actually, it's from a group that was based in Utah. Kyber Light was doing a Kickstarter for lightsabers, and they were pricey, but I was like, I kind of really want one.
I think
But
I've
what-
seen them at Fantasy at the.
You may have. They're not the leading lightsaber retailer, but anyway, but they are Utah based, as I understand. So I saw the Kickstarter, and I kind of hemmed and hawed over whether I would actually,
Buy it, participate.
because it was like a couple $100. But since I kept going back to it, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it. I'm an adult. I can, I don't have kids or a mortgage or anything right now. So
Yep.
so I
I have
ended up
adult money. I'm going to spend my adult money on things that I want to.
exactly.
And that's usually how Brittney justifies things when we're talking about it. That's the line. She's like, well, I'm an adult and I have money.
I thought when I became an adult I'd have money.
No.
I don't.
No.
Well, you spent your money on other adult things instead.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you have married money. That's a whole other conversation.
I've got married money, not single money.
I don't have that yet. So my money is mine.
Whoa.
So
hold on.
Anyway, okay, so I bought the lightsaber, and then once I had the lightsaber, I was like, okay, well, I guess I need a costume to go with this. So I started making a Jedi, and I started doing the Jedi according to the club specifications, because they have costume standards, and I figured I'm gonna spend all this time and money doing it, might as well go the extra 10% and make it to spec.
So hey, wait a second. Both Weston and I like, but wait. So this is a hobby group, and
yes.
and there are specifications on which to build fake.
Okay, so that's kind of a whole can of worms.
In short, yes.
The reason being, for these clubs, they're supposed to be screen accurate.
Okay.
Like, you're supposed to look like the character from the movie, like you literally walked off of the movie screen.
Okay.
So there are costume specifications, and that's these clubs, I should say, these clubs do like charity and community events. So they do, hospital visits and 5Ks and conventions, and occasionally do extra work for Lucasfilm, etc. So
cool.
Anyway, so
they take this seriously for a reason. It's not we're just you know overly picky nerds. We have reasons.
That's the prevailing opinion of some people out there. It's a whole like drama thing, but for the most part, that is exactly why they do it. It's because they have that tie to Lucasfilm, and they're trying to, although Lucasfilm really doesn't care, because they're more inclusive that way. These clubs take it to the next level because they want that screen accuracy. They don't want that. When you're lined up, there's an aesthetic there that when you're like, I'll pick on the stormtroopers. It's one of the ones that happens the most. Like if you have 3 or 4 stormtroopers right next to each other, and whether they look like they stepped off a Tatooine and they're all like dirty or whatnot, or they're the stark white, clean Death Star looking guys, that's imposing.
Yes,
it's imposing for a reason, because they took the time, made sure it looked accurate, and when you're next to them, you're kind of immersed, and that's one of the reasons why they do that. That's ultimately why they're more picky about it. You get an immersion there from with the people that you're with and taking pictures with and whatnot. And when you're in that sort of element, you want to be invited back. You really do. You want to keep doing these charity gigs and whatnot. So
there was a video I watched recently. This woman went, and she went as an Imperial officer, in the officer garb. But
you're talking about the HR one?
Yes, she was Imperial HR.
Oh my gosh, that was the funniest.
And I'm just like, oh, this is brilliant. This is just like so fun to play. Like, we
didn't some of our friends run into her at Celebration?
They did.
I was just like,
I didn't see her, but yeah.
That's so fun.
We talked, last show, we talked about, with Dad Vantage about making interesting characters. Like, talk about taking a character and a costume build that you're like, okay, we know this is very established, and then you just put that little tweak on it, and suddenly it is unique as can be.
It's so fun. So you have these
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Brittney. Go ahead.
Okay, so like I said, that's a whole can of worms. There are any number of debates on the internet over the specs, and that's whatever side you fall on them, they are what they are. And so while I was working on the Jedi, I had it mostly complete, and all I needed was like belt accessories, and I took it to the Phoenix Comic Convention and wore it to a Meet the Clubs panel. And everybody was up there. Jerome might have actually been up there too. You might have been on the panel. I don't remember.
I probably was at that point.
I didn't know you back then, so. But you likely were. So everyone was just talking about like what the clubs do and kind of showing off some of the costumes, there were a whole bunch of people like dressed up that were, standing around at the panel. And I was like, man, these are so cool. And that year at the convention, I happened to just be going to a lot of panels about armor making, cosplay, just because I'd never done anything like 3-dimensional before. I'd always sewn my costumes. And so I decided after, seeing some of the Mandos there and going to all of these panels, which ironically the panels were mostly about using craft foam, which is not what the Mandos use. The Mandos use what's called Sintra, which is PVC foam core board. And
really?
It's so they use
PVC is pretty cheap.
Yeah, they use it for like outdoor signage, I'm told. But like if you go to a sign shop and you ask for Sintra or the generic version of that, they'll sell you sheets of that for pretty cheap.
Especially if cool. That is good to know.
If you ask for scraps, they'll give you like if you need for smaller pieces, that's even cheaper because they were just gonna throw them away
anyway.
So after that, I basically immediately threw the Jedi in the closet and started making a Mando. But since I'm a little extra, I decided I wanted to make a Mando that was from my favorite Star Wars entity, which was Knights of the Old Republic.
Great game.
And so this is the Old Republic Mando. That's long story short. So this is kind of a special costume because at the time that I started it, there was one other approved of this build in the world, and
no way.
None of them were female, obviously, and I mean not obviously, but like I'll just tell you, no female has ever made this costume, and it presented a lot of challenges because of that, and also because it's from a video game and that doesn't translate super well into
and an old video game.
Doesn't.
It's an older
also
video
that,
game.
So with that there's like resolution issues in just figuring out what the details are. But yeah, so this is as of yet not approved because of some fiddly stuff with the helmet, but and also the part where I can't actually breathe under there. But,
geez, no, that's a problem.
Details.
Yep.
Breathing? Who cares about
hazards in cosplay?
Yeah. The other thing is like everything is hot.
Pop out and grab one, real quick.
Okay. No, because that's one other thing is like how hot it can get when you're wearing some of these cosplays and you're going to like San Diego Comic-Con or like here in Utah, the Fan X. Like it's hot when they do these.
Some of these cosplays, I'm like, you're sweating like, oh, look at that.
So I made the swords also.
Oh my gosh.
These are also made of Sintra and then some craft foam on the top. And the cool thing about these is that they light up.
What?
Oh
my gosh.
I have some LEDs in there, so my vibro swords.
That is so cool.
Yes, the
I gotta
vibro
tell you,
blades.
I felt like super cool using my dad's sander and just like sharpening the point on the sword.
You're like, it's a grinder. I'm gonna make it. That is so cool. Have you ever thought about using like pewter to make like a metal sword?
I think it would be cool, but I don't
know if you'd be allowed in conventions with a metal sword.
No.
Well, I mean,
most conventions would not allow you.
Yeah. In fact, this one I actually used. I used a piece of like a metal dowel as the basis, which I should have used wood, but I thought metal would be stronger, which it probably is. But also, every convention, I'm always
Metal
like,
detectors.
are they going to let them in? Are they not going to let them in?
Oh, yeah.
The metal detectors.
So that's the thing.
I get that. We went to some convention here in Salt Lake. I don't remember which one it was, if it was FanX or Dragon or FantasyCon. But they actually stickered our son's Nerf gun. I was like, what?
Makes sense. Yep.
It's a Nerf gun. Like, what is happening? They're very serious about their weapon stuff.
Yeah, they've gotten really serious about it lately. I don't think this was the straw that broke the camel's back, but it's definitely one that added a whole lot of fuel to the fire, and it happened out here. Jason David Frank, is that his name? Green Ranger from Power Rangers.
Yes,
Was the White Ranger?
He was Green and White Ranger. Yeah, he was out here for an appearance at our at that point Phoenix Comic-Con. And the security was kind of lax. Some guy snuck into the convention with some loaded firearms with the intent of doing harm to him.
Oh my gosh.
Rita must have hired him.
He got caught, thankfully, pretty quick.
He didn't make it far.
And then ever since then, they've cracked down like
hardcore
immensely in conventions for that reason.
Jeez, that's
there are
scary.
crazies out there.
There are,
well,
there definitely are.
I was actually just thinking, it's interesting that at these big, huge conventions, like these comic book nerdy conventions, that there isn't more, you don't hear about more stuff like that happening, considering so many people come in with fake weapons. And I don't have even any kind of theory to postulate as to why, other than security is really tight because there's lots of fake weapons.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting.
They're careful. Generally, I mean, most conventions, I would say you're fairly safe. But, I mean, it's also a place where there's tons of people.
Yeah, and there's celebrities. And when celebrities comes psychos. I mean, maybe that was a rude word.
I think that's a valid point.
Wait. So are the people showing up the psychos, or are the celebrities psychos? Because I know it could go both ways with some celebrities.
Both. We're gonna.
It sure could. Yeah.
But usually the celebrities don't do anything to the con goers.
Generally not.
Normally not. Normally not.
Except for charge them a lot of money sometimes for.
Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Sometimes there's some highway robbery that's
a little
happening.
bit.
Shenanigans.
Okay, that's a whole different. I mean, we did label this cosplay and convention,
did.
so we can talk. We can circle around and talk about that one in a minute. But let's continue talking about your gorgeous creation.
Okay, so I mean that's basically it as far as a costume, except that I will say building that I learned how to use so many different tools that I had literally never touched in my life. Like I cut it out with jigsaw. I used all the table sanders, or like the table sander, and like regular, sandpaper. I'd used sandpaper before. Obviously, that's weak sauce. Like the some pieces of the armor are riveted together. I had to figure out how the arms and legs were going to close. So there's like Velcro in there. Had to figure out how to, get it to stick to my body, which again, Velcro for the most part. The helmet, the faceplate is 3D printed because I originally made that out of Sintra, and then I dropped it at a photo shoot and it split in pieces. And
oh my gosh. Did your heart just drop?
It was a little embarrassing. I think everyone else was like, "Oh no, Brittney," and I was just like, "Now what?"
So I'm guessing then the Sintra material that you made the armor out of is fairly fragile.
No, it was just the joint, because I had like the forehead piece was one piece, and it was like glued and sanded, so it was like a fairly weak. The area was a fairly weak joint, but anyway, now it's 3D printed, and so like there are a lot of things that I learned how to do through making that. And then through the costume that I've been working on now the last couple of years, which I didn't have in the photo album, but it's Shock T from episode 3 and the Clone Wars. It's that is my most ambitious yet. That one involves like a latex alien headpiece.
Holy cow.
Is that in this? Do we have that?
It's not
No,
on that
no,
one,
it's
but
not.
it's let me send you a picture of it. It is let's see. Sorry. Pause me for a second while I dig it up, and you could talk amongst yourselves.
I think she has a picture of it mostly assembled as like a dry test run. I think that's probably what she said.
I have an unfinished.
Yeah.
That I'll send you.
Well, one thing I will say that kind of got brought up before we started bringing up the Shock T, because you were talking about the heat and whatnot. One of the things that's become really common, there are vendors that will sell internal electronics for helmets and whatnot. So you have battery powered fans that will blow on you as you walk around.
Internal AC.
Yeah.
That is awesome. The other
so
ones that
a lot of the times. Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say the other ones I've heard of is like the little pump machines that like pump cool water all the way through your body or your armor, like a hydro cooling system in your clothes. I don't think any of
them have that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I know they've
at least
done that.
not the ones we know.
Yeah.
Okay, Wes, put it on the Discord channel.
Cool. But I know that they've used that for like actors when they filmed on set in like or on location in like Africa and Australia and stuff. When it's really, really, really hot, they'll use these systems underneath their costumes so they don't overheat.
That makes sense.
That brings to mind an interesting point between cosplay and like movies that I find very frustrating at the same time as like, I don't know, kind of a point of pride is that these movies that you see are like the costumes you see in the movies. You've got like makeup artists and costumers and like people on set that are there to like cool you down and people that are there to like handle you like in the costume, make sure see to your well-being, and you're only wearing it for like X number of hours.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then cosplayers can be wearing it all day. They often make them themselves. They put it on themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the Star Wars costumes will have handlers, because like the stormtroopers will usually have handlers, the Darth Vaders will have handlers because they can't see, and also because they get really dehydrated and hot in those costumes, and so just for health and safety they have people there to handle the crowds and handle the costumers. But like I remember when I was little and when I had my mom like make costumes for me, she would be like, oh, this part is not a big deal because it's just a costume. And I'd be like, no, right. It needs to be exactly how it is, like how it would be in real life, like an actual, piece of clothing. And I just think it's kind of interesting that there's a level of dedication that goes into cosplay that the actual like film actors don't have.
They don't have to worry about that.
Well, and they don't have an appreciation for what it takes to make those items. I remember when Cinderella came out, the live action, the movie, like, or the cosplay community was like, that dress, like everyone was like, we are gonna make that dress. And I remember seeing something that said that the dress cost them $10,000 in just crystals in Swarovski. those ones, crystals. And then like, so it was like a ridiculous amount of money. And then like the first comment was like, watch, some cosplayer's going to make this for $300 and it'll look better. And I've got to say, over the years, I have seen people with better, more functional dresses that look just as good and just as beautiful. But yeah, for probably like a fraction of the cost that they took for that thing. But I think one thing that you're saying is like walking out of the movies and like having it be like this, you want this to actually last. You want it to be more than the $60 piece of crap thing that you get from like the Halloween store or whatever. Is that something that drew you to cosplay to begin with, or is that something that like grew out of your love for dressing up in general? I'm wanting to know what came first, like wanting to be the character or loving the clothes and then realizing you step into the character.
I'm betting the dressing up.
I think it's I don't know, it's kind of like an intertwined thing. I've told Jerome before, there are like three main reasons why I cosplay. And the first and probably the biggest one is the challenge of the build. Just because I'm a creative person and I really like the creative process. I like, figuring out how to make it work, and then the actual doing of the project. And then there's the wearing of the costume. So like wearing it around and showing it off and having people, be excited and take pictures and like
interacting with you and stuff.
When you spend so much time and money on this costume and like nobody at the convention gets it, that's a bummer. Feeling.
You're like, you uncultured swine.
So then again, like when I wear the Mando, the Neo Crusader, that the video game that's from is more than 20 years old now. And so like most people aren't gonna get it.
You should come to Gaming Con then up here, because they would get it. Because it's the video game convention up here that they do every year.
That would definitely be a better audience for it.
Yeah, they would get it.
When you walk around a con and somebody is like, I know you, like I love that game, and then you're like, it's all suddenly worth it.
Yeah. I remember when we went to, it was the final Harry Potter movie, right?
Yeah, so this I feel like we should talk about, this is a good time for us to talk about our only cosplay experience.
Oh, 1 second before I get derailed. Sorry, the third reason is to have other people like recognize the work that got put into it.
Well, that's
the appreciation.
We've got your picture pulled up right now of who is this character with the headpiece and everything?
She's called Shakti. She's another Star Wars character. Oh, what I was going to say about this one is this is my most ambitious yet. So with this costume, I not only like sewed everything, I did the leather work. I have actually, there are 2 pieces, soon to be 3 pieces on this that I dyed the fabric. It's my first foray into body paint. I made all the jewelry pieces, and I'm also painting the latex headpiece. So those are all new things that I'd done some leather before, but not on this level. So
is it the leather piece that's in the center?
Yeah,
that we're seeing there.
Do you have a better shot of that, Brittney? Like, did you? Because I knew you took some pictures in process.
I did. And I can send you a closer up, but the other picture that I sent is like just the costume itself.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
If you have that, Weston.
Give me one.
I don't know what your setup is. I'm not going to assume that you can just pull it up on a whim.
Give me one second.
Can you just pull anything up, babe? That would be great.
Yes. Give me one.
Can you just take the pictures off my phone and like share them?
Seriously though? It's so funny. Weston is such a tech whiz that like he'll do things and it feels like magic sometimes because I'm like, you can do that? And he's like, yeah. Like, you okay? How did you not know? Oh
yeah, there you go. Good picture.
So wait, that's what you created?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not seeing it on the screen yet.
Oh
but-
my gosh. That is incredible. Because, like, seeing you in it with the headpiece and the red skin is, like, awesome. But then seeing it displayed like this is unreal. Holy cow. That leather work is awesome. How did you do that? Did you do that with soldering? Or not soldering, but with like a
tooling. No, just just regular leather tooling. I would so the thing that I had to do first was to find screenshots, like clear screenshots of the piece itself, and like kind of trace it out, and then figure out how big I needed the piece to get, and then like I traced it in Illustrator so that I could just expand it, blow it up into the proportions that I need. And then I printed it out on like several pieces of paper, and then you get your leather wet, and then use a tool to like press into the wet leather to make it what's the word? I'm not a leather person.
It's like
so basically like carve into it, but like not carve.
Yeah, it's like leaving an imprint on the leather itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Indentations.
Yeah, that's
all of my leather work is like mostly self-taught, and like some assistance from my dad, who was really involved in like Boy Scouts.
Well, and that's the thing that always amazes me with a lot of cosplayers. A lot of times it's completely self-taught, and it's like the amount of time, the trial and error that goes into it is not for the faint of heart.
YouTube is your friend.
YouTube is your friend.
YouTube is a very good friend.
Well, and it's so funny because like 20-something years ago, like the cosplay community was still kind of like this and like nerdy, like the only people that did it were like super nerds.
Because you had to know how to.
Because like it was always the joke of like you get in your Star Trek costume or whatever and go to a convention. Like that was always the thing. But now it's like really, really cool cosplays are being recognized for the artistry and the talent.
100%.
Let's bring up Jerome.
Yeah, there's never been a better time.
Holy crap!
Jerome,
is that your $200 lightsaber?
Lightsaber? Yes, it is.
Oh my gosh, that's pretty sexy.
That's
$200
that's me.
Lightsaber.
That was a friend of our. We had our whole club at that time up in Flagstaff for a photo shoot. A friend of mine does photography. That's kind of his big thing. He wants to cosplay, but I don't think he's ever gotten it finished. So he hangs around the clubs and takes pictures.
That's cool.
Lots and lots of pictures. So
cosplay photography is like a whole
Ray
thing
is great.
Too.
Yeah, and that's what he totally does. Like, so he hangs around, a bunch of the cosplayers, snaps all kinds of pictures, and as you can tell, does a great job, with the photo shoots and whatnot. But that's me. Same kind of idea. I went with an Old Republic era Sith, and really, I think the only upgrade noticeable there were my gloves.
Those are nice gloves. Are those writing gloves?
No, actually, those were just some LARP gloves that I got off of eBay at the time for like $25.
Oh, nice. They look like real, like nice riding gloves.
Sure, I gotta
vroom vroom motorcycle. There we go. There's the word.
Oh yeah.
No, like horseback riding. I guess
those type of riding gloves probably would have worked too, but
yeah, probably.
Yeah, actually, I think I looked into horseback riding gloves for something. I can't remember.
And like those types of things, it's really interesting. You start looking into that kind of stuff. Like there's a leather, these leather boots that I want to get really, really bad, and they're burgundy leather. They're like stunning, and they're $400 on discount.
Are they like thigh-high boots?
Yeah. Well, no, actually, no. They're knee. So they're knee riding boots. but they are so I will find it and send it over to our technical production manager and have him put it on screen.
Well, I wanted to show something here. So I'm looking at your photo album on Facebook, and it shows like the headpiece.
Yeah.
With in the details and pulled, seeing it on its own. So what is that made out of? What's the headpiece made out of?
It's latex.
The whole.
Oh, there's a thing in the back too. I didn't realize there was a thing in the back.
Yeah, that's a Tagrunta. Yeah.
I just painted the headpiece. Just put
so you bought the.
Yeah, and I will say that headpiece. She's the same race as Ahsoka Tano. If you guys know Ahsoka,
I do.
But the headpiece is shaped a little bit differently, and I scoured the internet for you're just going through all of my Facebook.
We're just looking at all the pictures now.
I'm bringing up because I saw here that you've got.
We're looking at a lot of the process stuff. I know.
So we got the process because Hayley specifically had asked about this.
Yeah.
And
wait. So wait. So is this a different version?
No, it's the same one.
It's earlier in the process, so you haven't done the embossing on it yet.
She's got all the spots. Look at this, the whole process from.
Gosh.
Here's the laying out of the design, and then each layer.
This is how many hours do you think it took just to do this piece?
Don't ask me. Don't ask that.
You can see on the date on here. It says 2019.
In fairness, you did crank it out.
Long time.
But yeah, in fairness, you did crank that out because you got kind of single-mindedly possessed.
Oh no, that's true.
It done.
That's true. The thing that was holding me back from finishing that was the headpiece, and still actually is the headpiece because I need to repaint it a different color, or I need to dull it down. It's a little too bright. But that's been a couple of years now since 1.5 years probably. So certain pieces will go pretty quick if I just focus on it. But all together, I've been working on it for probably 4 years. And I was saying, I did not buy the headpiece, but I scoured the internet for probably a year before I found somebody that was selling the headpiece that was shaped the way I wanted it.
Yeah.
And the seller normally doesn't do that one. She normally does Twi'lek headpieces.
Oh, was this Twi'lek Paradise?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think she's based in Spain.
Haley, do you know what the
Yeah, it's the ones that do the two, right?
Is this generally they're slave girls in Star Wars all the time, which is kind of
they're
racist?
probably the most they're the most popular alien race in Star Wars.
They're just a very attractive species, and that therefore are known to be entertainers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Anyway,
and they're colorful.
And there. So, so the person that made it, she was doing a limited run of those, and I think I paid $600 for it. So that gives you an idea.
That hurts. That hurts me in my soul. Yeah. That is amazing, though. Heck yes on that woman for creating something that you were willing to spend $600 on. Because that would have been so incredibly difficult to make.
Oh yeah.
Which is why I bought it.
You're I will pay someone to do that.
Sculpting, I will say, I'm good at a lot of things and a lot of crafty things, but sculpting is not one of them.
Sculpting is very hard.
It's so hard. If you guys ever watch the TV show Face Off, where
I've heard of it, I haven't watched it.
They're makeup artists and VFX artists that are it's a elimination competition show. So they start out with 12, and every episode they eliminate one, and they have different challenges and different creatures that they have to make or things that they have to do. And one of the things in their process is they have to sculpt. They always have to sculpt what they're going to do, because then they cast it and then they run it in like foam or whatever and make a mold and all that. Like they show the entire process on how to actually build stuff like that from scratch. But the one thing that has always been a hang up for me of feeling like I could try my hand at this is a sculpting. Because I'm like, dude, I could never do that. Are you kidding me? I don't have a hand to do that. Oh, you found ours!
I did.
Oh yes, let's talk about your Harry Potter stuff.
So Weston's Voldemort. This is back in the day, and cameras were not as very good on your phone. And then that's me in the back. I am Bellatrix Lestrange.
And then we got your mom is...
My mom is Professor Trelawney.
And we don't get your dad, who was Mad-Eye Moody.
Dad, I have pictures of my dad. I'll see if I can find it. But my dad was Mad-Eye Moody, and then...
Is that him in the back?
Yeah, it's him in the back. He's like peeking from behind my head. That was a really, really fun day. Because so we decided we were going to go to the final movie. As soon as tickets went on sale, I bought tickets. And because this is for all of you youngins out there, I don't think there are very many youngins that watch this show, but the whole thing where you had to buy your tickets because there wasn't assigned seating, and you had to go at midnight, and all of that jazz. So
yes,
yeah, so we had VIP tickets to this midnight premiere, and it was as soon as I bought the tickets, I was like, okay, what are we gonna go as? Oh my gosh, this is the only time I felt like it was permitted for me to cosplay as anything. So Weston decided to be Lord Voldemort, and he created the face latex. We created a cast of his face,
yes,
so that he could work on it, and I made my wand, and I'm gonna see if I have pictures of that.
Yeah, I've got a bald cap underneath. I've got nose, what's it even called? It's like a putty that you put on, the sides of your nose and stuff like that. And then I had a mask, latex mask that I'd made that then laid over top of that I'm wearing there.
Nice.
And
we worked on it for months and months.
Here's the one thing that no one tells you when you cosplay as a character that is very iconic. You can't go anywhere, including the bathroom.
If you're the only one.
No one else dressed up as Voldemort.
No one else dressed up as Lord Voldemort, and we're at a midnight premiere, so all the other crazies are there. And they were doing it where it was they had one starting at midnight, and then they had one starting 20 minutes after the midnight one. So there were ones at 3:30 in the morning and stuff like that. So when we got out, it was still a completely packed theater, and this was a large complex of 18 theaters, and each of them was playing Harry Potter. So it was a madhouse. But this poor man, you could never be a celebrity, babe, ever. So you would get so annoyed.
Well, here's something to it. So I am not a late owl. No. I go to bed at 10.
It's much better now than
maybe 11. This is now what time is it? 2 o'clock in the morning?
This was probably about 2 o'clock in the morning. Three actually.
And it's the final, Harry Potter movies like that. So I'd actually been going to the bathroom for the last while of the movie. So I get out of there, and I'm trying to beeline it to the bathroom, and I'm getting stopped every 5 feet.
Literally, he would take 3 or 4 steps, and then somebody would be like, oh my gosh, can I have a picture with you? This is amazing. And I'm it's Bellatrix Lestrange, and I'm feeling I'm freaking chopped liver. Nobody cares about my costume and way I look. But, yeah.
But I think you're right, because I was the only Voldemort. There was lots of people with other things. I think your dad was also one of the only Mad-Eye Moodies.
He was the only Mad-Eye Moody, and he did end up winning the little costume thing that they did that night, which was really cool. And I'm trying to find good pictures of him too. Because
he had a huge gnarled wood staff. He
created the scars on his face like Mad-Eye Moody did. He had the eye. Yeah, it was really cool.
What was that?
Yeah.
Where did he find the staff?
It was actually given to him by a friend. And then he used modeling clay to shape it a little differently. Awesome. But it was just a treated piece of wood from the mountains, which was really amazing. It was given.
Oh, this looks cool.
Yeah, it was given to him as a gift. I don't think I'm gonna be able to find these pictures, babe.
Well, and I've got Jerome has a couple pictures he wants to share.
You may recognize on the first one there the individual in the middle.
Yes, I do. Give me 1 second.
I don't recognize.
Oh, you will.
It's Alan Tudyk! I love him so much. Okay, so why did he just come jump into your guys' photo? Like, what happened?
No. The whole point of that particular photo, Rogue One had just come out, and he was coming to Phoenix Comic-Con to as a celebrity and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So I helped put together we made him an honorary member of our club. Is what we did.
Oh,
so he's
fun.
He's holding up a little acrylic kind of plaque that says, he's an honorary member, and those were all the members of the club at that point in time.
Oh my gosh!
So the funny story behind that, obviously, we didn't have a whole lot of time with him, for that, because he was in between signing and something else,
panels,
but he knew he was going to be made an honorary member of a Star Wars club. And so he's like, oh, okay, that's great. And he's like kind of saying hi to everybody. He's looking at everybody's costume, getting ready to line up for the picture. And he goes, but wait, you're all bad guys.
He didn't realize that until after?
He didn't realize until we were lining up for the picture. He's like, at that point,
There's
I said,
no Jedi in the picture.
This is a Sith.
And I said,
group.
technically, K2SO was originally kind of a bad. And he goes, oh, okay, well, that's true. It's true.
That is hilarious. Oh my god.
So that was a fun story. I got a chance to do that, with one of the Star Wars clubs. So that was a good memory. The other one I put up was just some more of us, but the lighting at it was at a children's museum that's here in town.
Give me a second.
And the lighting of it was actually really cool.
Yeah. Do you guys find, because you guys have obviously done this way more than we have, do you find that when you put the clothes on as you're getting everything in place and Velcroed and whatnot, do you feel like you're kind of going into a transformation sometimes where it's like you become the character, or is it just like a cool piece of clothing?
If you can't tell, Hayley's a bit of a method.
I wanted to freaking be Bellatrix Lestrange when I dressed like her. So that's why I asked.
I'd say some costumes more than others. That's actually something that I kind of struggle with because I'm not much of an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Although practicing with RPGs has made me a little bit better.
It forces you to do that.
Yeah, but I will say, like, when you, and this is kind of the hard part of me cosplaying, is that when you step out into the public, people, I mean, they don't know you. Mm-hmm. They only know the character. And so they kind of expect you to kind of play it up to the character.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you don't, then it just feels a little bit flat and disappointing. So, I mean, like, if they're so excited to see you, they want to interact with you, but the only way they know to interact with you is as the character.
Yeah.
So.
Or a character. In a way, it's kind of like a mascot.
Yeah.
In a way,
Yeah.
It's like they don't always expect you to be like Darth Vader or Boba Fett or whatnot. But especially when you're dealing with kids, they often, they in some cases, like, one of the jokes for our group, and I know Brittany's heard this too. If we didn't make at least one child cry, we weren't doing our job. And that's because some of the characters to younger children are just creepy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand the mask, or they don't understand the prosthetics, or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, it's very alien, and they freak out. And it's a hazard that happens. And then occasionally you'll meet that young kid that is just like, oh, that is so cool, and they want to interact, they want to do all the things, and
we for
that's
sure
just
have
what makes
both
your
of
day.
those children. In
Our 9-year-old would be like, I want that. That is so like dark, sinister.
So
I want this. And then
we always get people asking to hold the lightsaber and play with it, and because they're stunt worthy, if one of them gets one and a friend of them with, gets it, they'll immediately start hitting each other, and so we have to watch for that.
Yeah, I would not allow our sons to handle any of that. I would be like, nope.
That's super interesting because like I'm not in the bad guys club. I'm only in the good guys club, and it's one of our particular bylaws that you do not let children handle your weapons just for liability.
Really?
So,
well, think about it. You give it to Gabriel, he turns around, just whacks Michael in the head.
Michael in the face.
So like if you're like posing for pictures, you can let them hold it as long as you also are holding on to it.
As long as you're controlling it.
You cannot. Yeah, you can't. That
anyway. Makes sense.
That's one of our rules.
That makes total sense because I think it's also a good thing for just like protection of your stuff. Yeah. Like Jerome, like you spent $200 on that thing. Like,
that's just the lightsaber, obviously. I spent some more on the costume.
They're supposed to be, at least my lightsaber. The Kickstarter showed a video of like a car running over it and just like it being fine. So that's kind of in the warranty, but
shouldn't
not everybody's lightsaber is meant to be mishandled.
Yeah. Shouldn't it have cut through the tire? I mean, I would have thought the lightsaber, rubber tire. I thought we should cut it.
That reminds me of another thing I was going to mention is like going out to events like this, especially when you have the bad guys there and the good guys. People always ask you like if you're going to fight each other. So I mean, you develop answers for these things like while we're on Earth, we have like a truce, or like they always ask about the lightsabers, like how come it doesn't cut things, and like you get to learn things like
I have it on safe mode.
Yeah, it's like it's a containment mode or something like that. Just try and play with that disbelief without breaking it.
Well,
the stormtroopers have the stormtroopers have a thing too that biker scout stormtroopers, and most of the soldier types that you see from the Empire, like if they see a kid in a Darth Vader outfit, they usually go, "Boss!"
Yes, I've seen those.
That's so cute.
They'll like point them out and they're like, "Oh, boss!"
That is so fun.
Well, and that's
so it can be really cute and fun that way.
Well, and that's one of the fun ones is when you do go to a convention and then you find someone that is in the party in the movie or in the game, and you're like, oh, you're in there as a Jedi or whatever, and then the Chewbacca walks up to you. It's like that. It's like then you all of a sudden you get this little scene that you get to play out and people watch it, and it is the interplay between cosplayers is really cool, and it's a generally very accepting, very awesome community to where very supportive of each other. I mean, you got people like you guys, throwing out amazing costumes. You go see someone and you can tell it's their first one and they tried and stuff like that. You're going to get a lot of, uplifting and stuff like that for the work you've done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because they all had their first costume. And they all probably remember that first costume.
Have you guys ever done competitions?
I have not, but I've been thinking about it because I feel like I'm probably at a level where I don't know, I might be okay at it. But as I've been researching, it turns out there's a lot of a lot of cosplay contests will have like a performance sort of aspect, and that's not really my thing. So I don't know, I'd have to think about what to do.
There's also an element in cosplay which is it's gotten even more prevalent now that there's cosplay celebs,
Yeah.
the sexualization of that sort of thing. And so if you're going into a competition, and this is just personal experience from seeing some of them, not necessarily because I've never participated in it. Unless you have a costume that really wows, like really, really blows somebody away, judges are probably going to lean towards those ones that are the sexualized Mario or the sexualized, other character or something. Unfortunately, it's just kind of the way it goes.
Yeah.
It isn't going to happen all the time, but because that element is out there, I think that competitions they're probably not the best thing to strive for unless you really have some chops and you're okay with the pettiness of some opinions with some of the judges.
There is a tendency also, or there can be a tendency to go with the people that rather than
true.
Some dark horse that you've never seen in the scene before. So that can be a thing. Something that people have recommended to me before is, if you're interested in doing a cosplay competition at a convention, do some research, figure out, look at the previous year's winners, kind of, try and watch what they've done, see what kind of things won. If you can get an idea of what the experience was at that particular convention.
It's a good idea.
Well, and how they judge it too.
Yeah. I've been told that every convention handles things a little bit differently, so you'll want to read the fine print and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I imagine you'll even, sometimes, because you got different types of judges. You got the ones where they just grabbed somebody. You've got the ones to where it's almost like a public, voting, which I know the one we went to for the Harry Potter, whoever came with the largest group of friends won.
Yeah, I didn't win the villains cosplay thing, because there was not as many of my friends there.
Yeah.
Which was sad, because the girl that won was just wearing a black dress, and I was like, "Are you effing kidding me right now?"
There's a little bit of bitterness there still.
I'm still pissed because I worked so hard on that freaking dress.
But then there's other ones I know where they bring in people that they're these are the judges and they're other professional cosplayers or stuff like that they bring in.
Which I shouldn't do this because they are professional. They are making a living off of cosplaying, which I think is interesting. Is you never would have thought 15, 20 years ago that was a thing.
No.
Why would and the fact that the internet has created the situation where that can be a thing, where people are selling how-to books and products, and they're being sponsored by huge brands to cosplay their characters is insane. Well, why? Addison. Oh, I don't remember. I think it's Allison, but she's incredibly famous throughout the cosplay stuff, and I follow her, and she is so good at makeup. She does do a lot of intensive costuming type cosplays, but her makeup is so unreal. It's she can shapeshift.
That's pretty incredible.
Yeah, she is so good at what she does. It's understandable, but how do you even figure out that that's something that you want to do when you're young? Because she's young.
Well, I think that brings the question of, because you talked about the growth of cosplay.
Mm-hmm.
So the question is why? Why do we think that cosplay has grown? Why do people get into it? And what can kind of tell you if this might be something for you?
I think the number one reason is just that, the internet notwithstanding, just geek culture has become so much more acceptable and so much more mainstream that there's just a bigger audience for it. More people are interested in, genre type entertainment. than like ever before, and they have a better way of connecting over it. So Juro might remember like going to comic conventions back in the day. They were about comics.
Yep.
And now they're much, much less about comics, and they're more about pop culture entertainment. And as part of that offshoot, the cosplay has really taken off. So now, like I said before, you not only have access to a lot of materials, and I mean, like, even with Yaya Han, whatever you might think about her, but like, you walk into a fabric store and you see a much more interesting variety of fabrics that never would have been there 20 years ago.
No, and they're the type of fabrics that are designed specifically for cosplay, that have stretch and give and are really light so that it breathes, and because you just use regular cotton and
so you know, the regular person on the street has access to so much better materials than we used to. So that's part of it. I think there's also just an aspect of the mainstreaming being like kind of a snowball of this is a popular thing to do, and it's becoming more acceptable, and so people are just getting into it more.
You're not the weirdo, and your parents aren't like, you're planning on worshiping the devil because you dressed up in this.
I mean, even on a really basic level, like the Halloween stores. Sometimes I think about, like, I have no idea what like normal people wear on Halloween. Like, how do normal people make costumes?
I totally understand that, because I'm either the go so hardcore or not at all. Like, there is no in between for me.
I put on a flannel t-shirt and hold some tools, and I go as
Al Borland every freaking year
from Tool Time.
So like the
assistant dude, do the thing, do the thing though.
I don't think so, Tim. And I had someone one time that was like, I think it was one of my employees, and he's like, you know who you look like? Al Borland. And I was like, I don't know how to take this. But then I was like, threw on a flannel. I needed a costume. I threw on a flannel shirt, had a tool belt, put it on.
It was stupid. Like, I'm like, I did not realize I married Al Borland. That's amazing.
Well, you know, he was a lot more stable of a person than Tim Allen was.
Yes, he was.
There are worse.
But it is, because for us, and that would be a question I would make, is we have a tendency, if it's like it's all or nothing, because you see these extremely elaborate costumes, like the one you made, you know, the headpiece and all that. But a lot of times when you're getting into this, you can't jump to that. So what would you say to the person looking to get into it and they are intimidated by that level of costume?
Yeah, don't try to run before you can walk, unless you have like an in. Like, if you, I mean, I don't mean like an in, like, oh, join this fancy club. I just mean like, if you know somebody that's into it, who can, you know, help you figure out what you're doing. If you go to conventions, go to some of the costuming panels. They'll talk about a lot of this basic stuff. There's almost always at least one panel on like costuming on a budget. They'll talk about
generally,
like easy ways that you can get into it. Again, YouTube is your friend. There are other websites and like forums where you can see what other people have done, and like they'll show like works in progress. You can kind of follow along, try and figure out, okay, this is how they approach this project. If it's something that is pretty popular, you can assume that someone else has made it at some point. So,
and there's always
probably find it online.
I was about to say, like, YouTube now is like YouTube University. Like, if you don't know how to do something, you put in something vaguely with the right keywords and you'll get 10,000 videos on it.
Yeah, good point.
Because I do everything via YouTube University.
Well, and you can, there are forums, there are, Reddits, there's Facebook groups, and ask the community. Like I said, from my experience, it is a very friendly community. Very much, they're all trying to find the best way to make their costume. And so you're like, hey, here's a costume I want to make. I want to make this part, but I don't have, endless funds. What would you recommend using to make this on a budget? They will help you. They will give you ideas. They'll say, oh, you can use this. You can use, this thing. It's amazing what you can build with cardboard these days.
Cardboard.
Foam.
Yeah, don't diss cardboard or other, easily accessible home, materials.
EVA foam.
Yep. One of the most amazing ones I ever saw was
or the thick stuff that
we actually just bought Eva foam. I want to grab it. I'll go grab it.
Format.
But one of the coolest ones I saw that I knew this couldn't have cost that much money. A guy went as Optimus Prime, and it was literally a bunch of boxes that he'd cut.
Cardboard.
But then he'd painted them well and fit them in good ways. And I was like, dude, there was time. And this is one thing that's true. It's true in terrain building here for our TTRPG games, and it's true in cosplay. You have a spectrum. You can spend a lot of money and get it fast, or you can spend almost no money and you're going to dedicate time. And it kind of fits along that spectrum.
I'm just really excited about this. So Michael's, for at least near us, for a hot second had a cosplay section. And apparently it was not selling well because they just literally everything in the cosplay section went on like 50+% off. So I got this Eva foam for
maybe it was the wrong time of year. It wasn't, convenient.
They've had it for probably 2 years now.
Oh, never mind.
It just did not do. I don't think it freaking sold anything.
Well, I don't think people knew necessarily to go there. Plus, they opened up this cosplay section when conventions haven't been happening.
They weren't happening.
That's probably a big factor. Is people are like,
probably
we'll use this.
Yeah, but so we got all of the. So I got this roll that has. I'm just trying to figure out how much is in it. I don't know. There's a lot. So I got that roll, and then that's the 2 millimeters, and then this one's the 12 millimeter. Something like that.
And she got all this for like
12 millimeter. So there's this one.
How much was that?
Hold on, I'm gonna say it all together. And then I got all of these dowels in different shapes. So like squares and circles and triangles.
Is that also foam?
Yes, This is all Eva foam.
Oh, interesting.
So these were all $1. All of these dowels were $1. And then the other two, I don't remember exactly how much it was, but everything came out to $35 for all of this. And all of their Warbler was 50% off too. So
nice.
Huge rolls that were normally 120 were like 80. And I was talking to one of the girls at the check stand, and I was like, you guys drop that price a little bit more, and those will be gone. Like the right person is going to come in and they're going to buy all of it. Because that's a pretty dang good price. Because it's the long, really, really long sheets. So they could do some really cool stuff with it. But I was just very excited when I saw that. Because I was like, I have always wanted to do cosplay and like really like dedicate time and be like, okay, I'm going to make this character. But, and like maybe, okay, I'm so sorry, Jerome. I keep just taking over. I apologize. I do want to touch on body types and cosplay.
Oh, so, good comment.
Well, this is why it comes up, because I have not cosplayed because of my size. Because I'm over 6 feet, I'm a thicker woman. I've been so insecure, and I want to do a cosplay with Weston where I'm Tariel and he's Keely.
Because she's six.
Because I'm 6'1" and Weston's 5'9", and if I wear heels, then it's like even more like.
I love it.
But I've never really committed to it because I'm bigger. So I'm wanting to know, you guys are in the community, you guys have experienced it more hands-on. I know what I have my own personal thoughts on it, but I've not experienced it. What has your guys' experience been within the cosplay community with body size and cosplay?
So, short answer, it's never been a better time to be a cosplayer, because there's been, like, in the past that may have been a limitation, but there has been a real push in the convention communities in the last, I'd say, probably 10 years about acceptance and, you know, celebrate the cosplay without letting the cosplayer detract from it. Or just like, detract is maybe not the best word, but it's become a very different scene than it was when I first started out. And I will admit, like, I tend to limit myself to, you know, characters that I feel comfortable representing, both in like modesty and in like I want it to be recognizable enough. So like I probably wouldn't choose a character that doesn't match my appearance, like at least somewhat.
Yeah.
Just for the matter of, you know, are people gonna look at this and know who it is? But also I will give a shout out to like the costume clubs, at least the Star Wars ones, is that's something I was really worried about, but they are 100%, at least in our area, they are 100% supportive of you do the costume you want to do because you love the costume. They don't care. I mean, like they're all, you know, adults, and adults come in all shapes and sizes. So you see costumes of all shapes and sizes, and I really love that about the costume groups.
The only thing I would add to that is kind of going off of what Brittney said. In a way, play to your body type. Mini costumes, you're going to be fine no matter what. I think, in my opinion, you're going to be fine no matter what. It's when you start getting to the ones that are a little bit more scantily clad or revealing or whatnot, that's where you start to see, in my experience, especially following behind, you know, people snapping the pictures and whatnot, that's where you start to run into the snickers and run into the you know, comments or whatnot. There was an individual, I won't name the person's name, but she dressed as a slave Leia at one point, and it's not like she was, I wouldn't even classify her as a big girl, right? But she wasn't the typical, well, she wasn't Carrie Fisher, you know, body type. That she just was not Carrie Fisher. She had, you know, she had a little bit of fat to her. And of course, the people who took the pictures posted up and body shamed her and whatnot because she was dressed as slave Leia. To an extent, you need to have some thick skin if you're going to do something like that. You've got to. The other thing to take away,
a terrible place.
Exactly.
Yeah, it can be.
Stay off Twitter. The other thing to take away from that is make sure your costume is matching your body type. So it's like one of the things that I noticed right off in cosplay is that you'll get these people who, like there was an entire group at our past convention here. None of them were skinny minis. They were all, they would all qualify for plus size, with the exception, I think, of the guy who did Zuko, but they did Avatar.
I was gonna say, you said Zuko. I know what they're doing.
we had Zuko. We had a Korra. We had somebody doing Avatar Roku.
Okay.
Not Roku, but
wow.
Avatar.
Which nation?
Shoot, I'm the Earth Nation. She's
Earth
the one with
Nation.
the fans.
Okay.
Kyoshi.
Yeah. Avatar Kyoshi.
Mhm.
Yeah. So we had Avatar Kyoshi, and then we had somebody doing she was the she ran the Steel City in the Legend of Korra.
Oh,
She was the sister of
yes.
she was
blind.
A Toth?
well, no, yeah. She was the daughter of her.
Lin Beifong.
We had Lynn and her sister. So we had like a whole
okay.
group of them together, and most of them would qualify for play, and they rocked it. They rocked it because the costume fit them great. It wasn't like they didn't shorten proportions to try and keep it closer to the character. They kept it proportioned to themselves, and it looked fantastic, utterly fantastic, especially when they were walking together. And that's the big thing, I think, in my opinion, to take away from that is that, if you are a bigger person, just make sure your proportions on your costume line up correctly.
Yeah.
Don't try to go like if you have a stormtrooper, for example, don't go your typical stormtrooper if you're a bigger person. You're probably going to have to get some bigger proportions because it's just not going to look right.
Don't
if
squeeze
you
into
have
a small outfit.
Yeah. Even though you make it the jumpsuit just right, if the armor pieces and whatnot are still for a normal sized individual, it's not going to look right, and you're going to kind of wonder why you're getting some stickers or whatnot. So it's just but like what Brittney said, a lot of people, especially now, there's much more body positivity going around than there is, I think, than there is body shaming. It's just keep that in mind. If for no other reason, then you're going to give your costume more life too. Because if you're shortening your costume and it's not proportioned in certain areas, you're inviting extra damage and wear and tear as well.
True.
All right. I think we do need to end for the night. We respect our guest's time. Hayley's like, no.
And Weston's time, apparently.
Well, then, real quick, Brittney, I've got two final questions, real fast,
Okay.
and I'll make them fast. Okay, so what is out of everything that you've done so far? What's your favorite fandom?
My favorite fandom?
Yes.
Oh, that's a hard question.
That is.
Fandom that I've done a cosplay for,
Or just in general, something you might geek out over.
Gosh, I don't know. That's a very hard question. I'm gonna come back to that one.
Okay, well then, fine. Then my joke question. Then I know you've played Mass Effect. So who is your favorite romance option? And why is it not Caden?
What is wrong with Caden?
I do love Caden, but I love the other Thane Krios more. But it's funny you should say that because probably my number one video game crush is Cartho Nasi, who was played by the same voice actor as Caden. So
Cartho Nasi coming from Knights of the Old Republic. So see, your first answer should have been Star Wars.
Right? Yeah. Well,
Star Wars. I like talking to you. I was gonna say I feel like you probably like Star Wars the most.
Star Wars has been a big part of my life in the last few years.
This is true. Yes.
As you may have expected.
See, the other acceptable answer would have been vampire, but
yes,
is that fandom?
Oh, it certainly does.
VTM is it's a whole thing. It's a personality.
That's been another big part of my life over the last few years.
Yay, Pride ST moment.
Aww. For any of you that don't know, Jerome is Brittney's GM for VTM.
He's a storyteller.
Sorry, the storyteller for VTM. Look, I haven't
It all
played it. I
translates the
can
same.
feign ignorance. Cool. Okay. I guess we should run this out.
If anybody wasn't, I mean, like, you can't really tell. Today I'm dressed as Janet from The Good Place.
Mm-hmm. Welcome. Everything is fine.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I literally did not realize that. I just thought you looked really nice. I was like, oh, I wonder if she just got off work or something.
No, I did this on purpose.
I'm
Janet.
so horrible.
It's okay. It's see, this is a scenario where it's normal enough to not be like super recognizable unless you're like in a group or in a context.
Yeah, and if it's the
Yep.
context that you are currently cosplaying, then I might have gotten it.
It's fine.
Awesome.
As there's fire all around her. It's fine.
It's fine. Everything's fine. It's fine. All right.
Jerome.
Jerome.
Go out and
Yeah.
create.
Yeah. So, well, if you get the chance, go watch the Good Place. It's hilarious. It was fantastic. Not kid friendly, but definitely something you can pull out some popcorn and relax with with the parentals. So. Okay, so then if that is all we got, we're at time. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. Our next show for Family Gaming Experience is next Wednesday. Is that what's coming up? Or?
Yeah, this next Wednesday on the 3rd.
Okay. And we will be talking about what?
We are talking about specifically TTRPGs and younger kids, like middle grade and teenagers. We have Stephanie on from TTRPG Kids, which is a really great website where she reviews TTRPGs that are designed for kids and kind of rates them. And she knows a lot. She's very, very well versed in that whole world. And then we have on another creator that has written an entire book about playing with your kids and the teenage years and how TTRPGs can really help with that. So it's very exciting. So that's next week. That's the 3rd.
Yes.
And then schedule-wise, are we off for 2 weeks after that?
We're off
or how are we doing
for
that?
1 week. So we will be dark. Pull up my schedule. We'll be dark on the 10th, but then we'll be back on the 17th. Hopefully with terrain.
Cool.
Fingers
Alrighty.
crossed.
Cool.
That's it.
So thank you very much for Brittney stopping by and dropping some knowledge on all of our heads with her experience and her awesome pictures. And I don't have a cool little intro like they have for their Party of Two RPG. So I will just say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Thank you all and have a great day.
Bye.